Okay, hey there YouTube. So, this video is, inspired by thereforeithought. He's a fellow YouTuber, assumably he. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Or if you don't want to identify that, then rock on. And this is kind of partially inspired by Thunderfoot's latest, Feminism versus the Facts, because I just got done watching that and it kind of brought back some memories. So, thereforeithought, we had a little bit of a back and forth over the Violence Against Women Act, because I left a few comments about, okay, rather than just violence against women, how about violence against all the genders? And not just focusing strictly on women, because you know what? Women can commit violence against men. Women can commit violence against other women. And so we had a little bit of a back and forth, and then thereforeithought apparently watched some of my videos about being raped by a feminist and deleted the comments and sent me a personal message. And I responded back saying about how those experiences and starting to work through them and deal with them kind of made me stronger, and about how it opened my eyes to all the bullshit of feminism. As many of you may know, when I was in college, I dated a feminist for about 2.5 years. 2 years? Yeah, 2.5 years or so. And this woman was a very passionate feminist, let's put it that way. She was a women's studies major. She was active in NARAL and the Organization for Women's Issues at Bowling Green. And, well, in addition to, she pressured me into giving up my virginity to her. And during the summer of the first year of us being together, it was the classic party scenario of drunk frat boy and girl who was sitting on the floor, and she raped me. And I was desperate to be in a long-term relationship at that point, and I couldn't see how she was abusing me. I mean, I realized that there were some crappy things that she did, but it didn't come into full scope until many years later. And the thing is that she was constantly preaching against this stuff. Oh, well, abuse against women, and yada-da-da-da against women, and yada-da-da-da against women. But you know what? After I started to work through a lot of the issues that I had, as far as being abused and realizing that I was abused by her, in addition to the rape, it just brought into full scope the amount of bullshit. And I almost think that women's studies classes and feminism, more toward the radical side, I mean, there are people who agree with, I won't even say that. We live in a society that desperately needs an egalitarian system. Okay, you know what? Awesome. First wave feminists, they got us the vote. Second wave feminists, they got us the freedom and the equality when it comes to sexuality. Now, yeah, there are still some negative things out there, but little by little our society is saying, no, what the fuck? We're not going to let other people get away with this. And a lot of those ideas of what the fuck shit are coming out of the religious sector of saying, well, women should save their virginity and yada da da da, whereas men can go out and spread their seed. But I view that more as a religious issue because it's primarily a religious demographic that's saying it, versus your agnostics, Buddhists, skeptics, and people who believe that all people are equal. So where was I? But yeah, she constantly talked about how women were being oppressed. But in reality, women actually have a lot more rights than they used to, and in some cases have way more rights than men. If I was to walk up to one of my managers and say, so-and-so said a joke involving a phallus, or was holding something in a phallitic way, they would be written up immediately. Just because, well, somehow that violates my poor woman sensitivities. In so many cases, when it comes to court cases, women get the kids. In so many court cases, women get treated better than the men. Some men don't even get to see their children, and yet they have to pay. I find a great lack of equality in this. And there are so many dads out there who want to be dads, and who are good dads. But because our court system is leaning toward women, they don't get that ability. And heck, there's a lot of women who really shouldn't be mothers. In many ways, I see third wave feminism wanting to turn the patriarchy into a matriarchy, and that's not where we should be. So what? Well, women were oppressed for so many hundreds of thousands of years, da 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 da. So what? Are you going to do the exact same back to men? That's not fair. It is 2013. We need an egalitarian system. If you look back into Viking culture, Vikings, they had an egalitarian system. Now, yeah, men and women had different jobs, but they were equally valued. And actually, they spread a lot of these ideas throughout the countries that they conquered. Just saying. I was deeply hurt, and I still think about it every day. There are times when I walk down the street and I see somebody who has a lot of very similar physical characteristics to the woman that raped me, and I get scared. But that happens to anybody who has survived being raped. And whenever I hear the word feminist, I do get a ping of fear because of what I had to go through at her hands and all the hypocrisy that I see. Women can rape other women. Women can rape men. And it's not fair to always paint women as the victim, because they're not. How many times has a man gotten attacked by a woman and it's the man who gets hauled off to jail? How often is it said to a man who walks into a sheriff's department and says, "I've been raped by a woman," where they just laugh at him and tell him to man up? Or, "Didn't you like it? What are you, some kind of a fag?" Yada-da-da-da. Women can violate men just as easily. Our society is so geared toward women. Now, yeah, right now here in Ohio, there is a case going on about a girl who got gang raped by a bunch of football players. Obviously, the system's not perfect. But for that rape that got reported, how many rapes have there been of women on men or women on other women that have not gotten reported? I didn't report it. I tried to bury it. I tried to hide it. I tried to forget it. And I wish I had come forward. Not so much justice, but just because I would be another person to speak out against it. And speak out against her hypocrisy. Our society chastises men who get raped or assaulted by women. And that's wrong. So what? He's supposed to man up? Oh, what? You couldn't fight her off? Yeah, da-da-da-da. Our society needs to bring justice to these women who attack men or who attack other women, and yet still uphold that level of masculinity. Because, in all reality, it's pretty hard to be a dude. The bro code, codes of conduct that allow a man to express his masculinity, and that very strong masculinity. Because, let's face it, it's hard to be a guy. It is! And I might go into that in some other videos. But yeah, I just see that we need to move past feminism. Why not be egalitarianists? Because you know what? I don't support just one gender. I refuse to support gender equality from one perspective. I support all the genders, from Barbie to G.I. Joe and everybody in between. And yes, a lot of people don't like me using Barbie and G.I. Joe as the anchors on my gender scale, but those are two commonly understood anchors of gender to the common person, not just to the college educated people. Most people would identify Barbie as being quite feminine, and most people would identify G.I. Joe as being quite masculine. And anybody who dare says that Barbie is a poor example of feminine can kiss my ass. Barbie has been everything from an arithmetic teacher to a zoologist to an astronaut. That woman has actually done pretty well for herself. To have the career, the family, the job, the education, and whatnot. How many careers has she had? And G.I. Joe, you know what? The all-American hero. Really strong, tough guy. But in all reality, in addition to coming down guns a-blazing, the medic still takes care of the kids. You don't quite see that as often, but how many Gen X's, Gen Y's, and Millennials can remember those little, and knowing's half the battle of G.I. Joe, where G.I. Joe is helping out some kid who just fell off his bicycle or something? Just saying. So yeah, that's my response to their forethought, and peace out, YouTubes.